Shabbat Shalom. So this week's Parashat deals mostly with the special clothing, the special outfit that the Kohanim, the priests, wore. And just like, a lot of these parshiot for somebody like me, who is not really into construction nor into fashion, it's a little bit hard to follow sometimes. So the question is always, what can we glean from this, since, we're not building tabernacles, and we're not, even those of us who are Kohanim, we don't wear, the special clothes that the Kohanim wore in biblical times. So Professor Arnie Eisen, who is the Chancellor Emeritus of the Jewish Theological Seminary, but before that he was a professor in the Religious Studies Department at Stanford University for many, many years. In his commentary on this week's Parsha, he wrote the following: I received a valuable insight into this week's Torah portion over lunch one day about 20 years ago at the Stanford University Humanities Center. Across the table sat a female professor from China, newly arrived on her first visit to America. I was the first Jew she had ever met, and at some point the conversation shifted from the books that we were writing to how Judaism differed from other faith traditions and communities in America. That's when she startled me with an observation I shall never forget. You can't be significantly different from anyone else in this country. You are dressed exactly the same as they are. Eisen goes on to say that the special clothing worn by priests detailed in this parsha symbolizes the sanctity of place. As I learned at the Humanities Center, it is hard to believe that what lies invisible within a person or group is truly different from the norm, unless that difference is reflected on what is visible on the outside. The clothes one wears on the heart or other visible markers or behavior need to signify and assist the turning of the heart within. Change often begins on the outside and works inward. So the Mishnah in Yoma tells us that the high priest had special garments with which to enter the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur. But after he finished the Yom Kippur service, he put on his regular garments. Certain garments mark a person off as performing a different role. Other garments mark a person off as inherently different. It was very common once for rabbis to wear robes for services, right? Just out of who here grew up in a congregation where the rabbi wore a robe? Right, okay, so about half of us, right? When is the last time you, other than the high holidays, when is the last time you saw a rabbi wear a robe?
My brother-in-law, who's a reform rabbi, wears a robe at special occasions.
Okay, but it's at special occasions, right? Not every Shabbos.
Yeah, he does wear a robe.
Okay, but not, right, but in a like when I was growing up, right, throughout every Shabbos, the rabbi wore a robe. Right, so, it's changed, right? And it used to be common, even for Orthodox rabbis, to wear, modern Orthodox, and in the UK, it's still very common. In the UK, the United Synagogue is Orthodox. It's not the same United Synagogue as our United Synagogue, although, who was the founder of the United Synagogue? Solomon Schechter. Where did he come from when he came to America? He came from England. He came from Cambridge, right? So, but at any rate, so the mainstream Orthodox shuls in the UK are still somewhat, kind of high church and very common. But in the United States, at least, almost all conservative synagogues and most Reformed temples have gotten rid of having the rabbi wear robes, right? But it's not just what they wear on the bima, which has changed. It's also what they wear to the office during the weekdays, right? I mean, it was once unthinkable for a rabbi to step into their shul without wearing a suit and tie, right? And I say suit and tie because in those days, all rabbis were men, right? And you were expected to wear a suit and tie to work in the office, right? But today, if I go to a board of rabbis meeting, right, most of the male rabbis are wearing a button-down shirt and slacks, but not a jacket and tie. I'm talking about the male rabbis, and the female rabbis, sort of the equivalent, right? But I've also noticed that the larger the congregation, the more likely the rabbi is to wear a jacket and tie in the middle of the week, right? That's the correlation that I've noticed, right? So wearing a robe during the service marks off the rabbi as somehow of a different nature than the rest of those in attendance, right? Which was absolutely appropriate for the Kohanim because they were ontologically different, right? But a rabbi is not ontologically different. Rabbis are not Kohanim. I mean, I happen to be a Kohen, right? But I'm not a Kohen because I'm a rabbi. I'm not a rabbi because I'm a Kohen, right? They're two totally different things. And rabbis really are not even clergy, right? Clergy means that there are certain religious functions, religious ceremonies, right, that only the rabbi can perform, right? And if I'm on vacation or I'm sick or whatever, it's not, oh, we have to run and find another rabbi, right? I mean, anything that right, literally the only two things that really halachically only rabbis should deal with, well, three, okay? Marriage, divorce, and conversion, right? Everything else, anything the rabbi can do, any other Jew can do, right? But there's a difference between distinguishing the person and distinguishing the time and place, right? And that's why I always wear a jacket and tie to shul on Shabbos, right? I mean, I sometimes take off my jacket because I've discovered that a big tallis and a jacket don't often play nicely together, right? But I wear it I wear it coming into the shul even if it doesn't last the whole service. And I'm not saying that that's what other people should do, but that is my way of paying respect to Shabbos, right? And, in general, I think rabbis of our generation try to level some of those distinctions, right? I mean, if you remember before COVID, I sat over there and I preached from there, right? And I sit up here now because of a way of being a little further away from people, because I want to stay different, because I'm one of the few people I know who's never had COVID, right? I didn't say only, I said few, right? And I give the sermon from here because of our friend, Woodsy the Owl, right? But, when I came in this morning, and this was not planned, right? I came in this morning and the three pulpit chairs were down there, okay? And Linda was kind enough to bring one up here, but I have to say that sitting in that one pulpit chair, it's like a throne, and I'm really uncomfortable, okay? And so Terry, you're the head of the rental committee. make sure that the church puts those chairs back when they're done. Okay, because if I don't like sitting in one of 3 chairs, I certainly don't like sitting like in a throne, okay? But if I'm gonna sit in a throne, then at least get me an actual throne, right? Kelly would love that, but me not so much, right? But, so Eisen in his commentary goes back to this thought about his Chinese guest who said that American Jews can't be very different than other Americans because we don't dress differently. And he said, my mind flashed at once to the scene in Annie Hall when Woody Allen goes with girlfriend Diane Keaton to a holiday meal at Grammy Hall's house. The table features a giant ham as its centerpiece. Woody feels a total outsider and believes the family sees him that way too. He is a Jew and his otherness is signified by the Hasidic garb we suddenly see him wearing. My experience at the Humanities Center was different. I knew I was a Jew, my colleagues knew it too, and none of us doubted that I thoroughly belonged at that table. But the kippah I now wear on my head and did not wear then might have served all of us well at that moment by moving the conversation with my Chinese interlocutor to a whole other level. For the Jewish head covering marks not only distinctiveness from other groups, but respect for and responsibility to God. Okay, so our Torah portion teaches us that we are all of us a kingdom of priests and a holy people, right? And you can't serve that role without standing apart to some degree. We want and we need Judaism to raise us higher in life, to take us deeper into the ultimate significance of things and help us aim at holiness. To that end, we need to pay attention to the literal and metaphorical dress codes that will mark our difference and remind us every day of what that difference is meant to serve and before whom we stand, right? And this is the dilemma of the American Jew who, I was saying this to a Christian pastor earlier this week, and I really believe it, that, despite the fact that conservative Judaism and modern Orthodoxy, we have a lot of differences, but in some ways, sociologically, I think we are the most similar, right? In that we assert that you can be 100% Jewish and 100% American at the same time, right? Whereas Reform, in my opinion, and a Reform rabbi would disagree, but in my opinion, Reform gives priority to being an American, and Judaism is in second place, right? And Haredi Orthodoxy, they live in America, but they're not of America, right? And we say, no, we're fully Jewish and fully American. And there are tensions at times, but there's a difference between a tension and a contradiction, right? You can be both. Sometimes it's a little difficult figuring that out, right? So the fact that we wear the same clothes, right? And modern Orthodox Jews wear the same clothes as other Americans, right? Whereas Haredi Jews don't, right? You look at a Haredi Jew, you know immediately they're Jewish, right? You look at a modern Orthodox man, if you can't see his kippah, you don't know, right? A modern Orthodox woman, especially if she doesn't wear a head covering, as a lot of modern Orthodox women don't, they dress modestly, but even modest depends. I mean, some modern Orthodox women wear pants, some don't, right? So, I mean, Eisen is onto something, right? The clothes are a mark of belonging, but maybe we would all do well to also wear kippot to remind us of who we are, because I know that, when we are wearing kippot, we understand that we represent not just us, but the Jewish people, and that we have a higher responsibility as well. Anyway, Shabbat Shalom. We continue with the Kaddish before Musaf and the Musaf service, 155 in the Shabbat Siddur, 428 in the full Siddur, and then we'll continue with the Musaf Amidah, the first two pages together through the Kedusha, and then individually, please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Ha'ibur v'Hanorah, El Elyon, El Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Ha'ol, V'Zoher Masei Avod, U'Beri Lemon Shemo Ve'Amam, Melech